Hey, my name is Lizzie Smiley, and I absolutely love helping people connect with their calling and all the tools they need to kick roadblocks and excuses right out the door so they can cultivate the life they dream about. If you want to launch, grow, pivot, or scale your Etsy shop, or you've always wanted to develop the mindset and skills to run your own business, then I'm your girl. I've had that entrepreneurial spirit going strong since my very first lemonade stand, and now I'm a work-at-home mama with multiple online companies and a full-time Etsy shop, all while being present with my kids for the everyday chaos and most important milestones. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things business, mindset, Etsy, creativity, dazzling our customers, and so much more. There's plenty of room at this table for you, so scooch on in and let's go. I'm holding nothing back. Welcome to How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the podcast, my friends. We have such a fun chat coming up for you today. Keeping the intro short because we're just getting right into it with Mr. Preston. You know him, you love him. He's been on the podcast a bunch of times before. Preston is a small town kid who loves supporting the local economy. He lives in Stamford, Texas, and his husband is Sarah, and fur dad to 3 dogs and a cat. In the past 3 years, he has served as the Chamber of Commerce manager in his hometown, helping small and local businesses grow and succeed. He also has a rapidly growing laser engraving business with a niche in making locally themed leather patch hats. We have spoken to him so many times. Okay, his Etsy shop now has over 1,500 sales. It's grossing over $3,000 a month on average. He's now transitioned from working 3 to 4 jobs to focusing on Etsy full time. Last year, he acquired a small local embroidery shop to add his ever-growing product line and testing his skills with a print-on-demand side hustle. Guys, in Q4, Preston broke records for himself and cleared $15,000. Things are going so well. And so I thought, how perfect would it be to bring him back on the podcast to have a chat? And he suggested, let's talk about how you think like a full-time Etsy seller. So this is part mindset, very practical. We are digging into all the things. I love the twists and turns that conversations with Preston take. It just never disappoints. So please help me welcome Preston back to the podcast. All right. Hey, Preston, welcome back to the podcast.
I'm back again.
Well, I can't get enough. I think it's a good vibe when you're here. Everyone loves when we chat.
You can't keep me away. People are going to be so sick of me. I'm glad that some people are still getting benefits of me visiting with you because I certainly do. We get so much done and so many ideas churning when I come talk. So I'm always happy to be here.
I think it's good to have the mind meld. Like, it's great to bounce ideas off, but I don't think anyone's ever going to sick of you because you always are thinking of insightful things to share, and you're just at that perfect part in the journey. What I love about you for people to hear over and over again is how patient you've been. You know, like you came in to Etsy like with big goals, but very reasonable expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's common-ish, but what happened was you went through a really long period of it not working in the way that you wanted to, and you just stuck with it, dude. Like wow. For those of you, most of you know because you've heard Preston before, but he was my first ever coaching client. In fact, did you not? I think you texted me the other day. You had pulled up those original conversations when we were emailing. Do you remember what it said?
It was from so I think originally you and I had said in our first interview, it was like January of 22 is when we thought was right. But I was like, that doesn't feel right. It was more like November. So I went back and looked and it was November of 21 that you and I talked that first time.
We met
it was
on
so funny.
Wednesday, November 10th, 2021 at 10 a.m.
I was at a Panera in Dallas because I was living in.
You know what? I don't know if I've told you this or not. Until we came on video, I thought you were a girl.
You met a lot of Prestons Prestons that are girls, I guess.
Kinda, yeah. And I also just didn't occur to me that a guy had found the podcast and was wanting one-on-one coaching. And it ended up being you. I mean, I had to play it so cool when you came onto camera because I literally didn't know until that meeting. Okay, but back then you were doing sweary wall art and it wasn't working. And at that point I really only knew Handmade. So I didn't even really know how to help you make it work. But we did some stuff. You got some sales going, but then you've pivoted into Handmade, which has been a good fit. But what I love is you allowed yourself to iterate. You weren't like, I have to make $300,000 in my first year or I'm out. You were like, I'm going to slow burn this. And you worked 3 jobs. and ran the Etsy shop. I don't know, you're a freaking machine. And over time, replaced the income of all of them until you got full time. So that's just cool.
Yeah, yeah. It was really funny just reading my initial email and I was like, I know who my audience is. It's basically me, except in girl form, which I guess is probably true, And like, I certainly wasn't like arrogant about it, but I was in marketing and had a kind of marketing idea, and it's just funny to say like, wow, that Preston came a long ways. And then I think I texted you too, like, hey, I've been listening to like the really early podcasts when y'all were making signs. Like, I'm talking like episodes 1 through 10. I'm back in them.
I don't
Just
even want to know. Woof.
and it's not bad.
Really?
It's
Wait, no, like give me some feedback though, because I can't even imagine what Lizzie back then sounds like. She knew next to nothing than what
it's
she knew compared. I can't.
well, it's true. Like, not next to nothing. You knew plenty, but like the episode I just listened to was like how to use Pinterest. Yeah, I think you were doing a more like blog post at that point,
Yeah.
and it's really nice to just see how far we've both come. But like I told you one a couple weeks ago, like it may be an ego thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm a narcissist. I like watching our interview, like the interview that you and I have done over the past, on the podcast. I'll go back and listen to it every couple of months, just because I like to see little Preston from a year ago, like processing, making 100 sales, like, and what I was learning then, and being like, don't forget those things that you learned early on, because it's important now. Like, yeah, we're well beyond 100 sales now, but the stuff, that was the building blocks of how I got here. And so I do like to go back and listen to our podcast, and I still pick up, things where from that one, and then the one we did a couple months ago, I'm still gleaning things from that, which is really fun and kind of cool and different.
All of our past episodes, guys, are going to be linked below. I'm surprised you're calling yourself Little Preston from a year ago, because I feel like that was actually a really powerful moment for you. You really hit your stride and began to see exactly how you could move forward. Like, it wasn't just, okay, I've had success, I've made this many sales. It was like, I know exactly what I'm doing. Let's go. And I don't know, that
Yeah.
was really cool for me to watch, for sure. It's so interesting. I like what you said about getting those good reminders from how you thought back then, because I don't know if anyone else does this. It's something I observe about myself. I can really overthink things. I can really overthink or almost philosophize. Is that a word, P?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Good thing.
Philosophize what it means to grow a business. Like I'm just open this scaling society. So my team and I have been talking about this a lot. How do we frame scaling for people? Because they're looking for this just like profound moment where things just grow. And I'm like, yeah, that happens, but it's really unsexy. Like, it's really putting in the reps and doing the same thing over and over again. And that same aha moment that you had a year ago is literally the same thing that's going to take you now from 1,500 sales to 10,000 sales. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so
No, you're
unsexy.
exactly.
It's so put in the reps. Like, it's crazy. Okay, so you texted me, you were going through old episodes. I cringed my face off. But then you came up with a brilliant idea for this episode, which was, what if we like talk all over again about how to think like a full-time Etsy seller? And I'm just super curious, why did that just go off in your brain like, oh wow, we should revisit this?
It was really interesting listening to that old podcast. I think it was like 5 or 6, maybe. It's in that low level number.
I want to be like, guys, don't go back. Don't do it. Don't go back.
It's funny because y'all, I don't know how far into the sign making y'all were at that point. I mean, you were obviously
Years.
doing it well, yeah. And I don't know how long you were doing it full time. You were doing it more than full time, I think, right?
It
Like
was a
that was from
$13,000
what
a
I can,
month business. But P, you know what? We were,
like
oh,
working like
sorry,
80
we got
hours a
the,
week.
oh, easily. And my husband too, outside of his full-time job. But what's crazy is 2021, was it or 2022? We were getting close to folding it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 2021. We closed that shop November of 2021. Right when I was talking to you was when I was turning it off. So I'd been full time for years.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was interesting hearing you talk about that, because at that point, I had not considered Etsy as something that could be full time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
What?
it's,
Really?
I had, no, because I mean, here I was thinking that I was going to make little printables that go on the wall. And then I started listening to the pod and like there was an episode that I listened to. You had talked to a girl real early on about selling digital things. And I think she was selling Canva templates. And I was like, oh, I can sell Canva templates. I work in Canva every day. And so I kind of started thinking about that. And I was like, but I had not thought about this as a full-time gig. Like I always thought about it as Etsy's only going to be just like a supplemental thing. Like I didn't think that it could do it. And so listening to the pod and seeing you grow into digital designs, and then us having more and more conversations with folks about handmade full-time selling, I was like, okay, this is a full-time job if I want it to be. But that didn't happen until that podcast that you and I did in October of last year, I had not even considered that.
October of 2024.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? Okay, this is literally point one, and it's not even on our list. I think a lot of people, because I don't know if anyone ever said this to you, but they're like, how's that? Hey, Lizzie, like, how's that little Etsy business going? Kind of with that little smirk on their face. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's just making more than my husband's full-time job. No big deal, you jerk. You're not really. Like I said it with such, I'm like, I would be charming as all get out. But people want to be kind of patronizing about, you know what I mean? So like point number one of how to think like a full-time seller, believe and know from the discussions happening on this podcast that there are a lot of full-time Etsy sellers. It is a total thing.
Yeah. And if that's uncomfortable for you, like if you're, I know there's some people that are probably embarrassed to say like, oh, I'm an Etsy seller. I just sell like t-shirt designs on Etsy. It's not a big deal. And you're churning out like $5,000 a month or whatever. I can hear that some people, and part of my mind transformation is I'm a manufacturer now who just happens to sell on Etsy. Like Etsy is my primary platform. But when somebody asks me now what I do, I like to tell people I'm a apparel manufacturer. I work in apparel manufacturing, and that's kind of true, I guess. But it's basically what I'm doing, and it makes me feel more confident. I puff up a little bit more like, yeah, I'm in manufacturing now. I manufacture things. If you sell designs, I'm a designer. I sell t-shirt designs. And it's just funny that, that mind shift from, oh, I just sell on Etsy. I have an Etsy shop or whatever, to no, this is my job, and I treat it as such. And it's doing pretty awesome, if I do say so myself.
Preston, I know we're all different. Like I get that our brains are different, but I need a mini therapy session with you right now because I'm serious. And this is going to help someone. And then we're going to get into like the mindset / practical list that we've got. But I'm so glad this came up. Back in the day, one of the side hustles I tried was network marketing. And there were elements of that that I loved. The biggest gift that network marketing gave me was introducing me to business books and continuing education, making your car a rolling university. I loved the community. I grew so much from hearing other people's stories. I learned so much from it. But and no shade, because I actually, one of my best friends is a full-time network marketer. She makes $500,000 a year. She's incredible. I have so much respect. But for me personally, there was a cringe factor. And I think it was because of my people pleasing and not liking rejection. And so when you would talk to people, there'd be so much skepticism and they'd kind of be like, ew, and it wasn't really about how I felt about the business. It was how I was being received. Okay. So I experienced that in that space, like direct sales, network marketing. Again, totally support it. No shade. It was just how my brain was wired. It does not compute at all that someone feels that way saying they have an Etsy shop. Can you why would someone feel that way?
I think there's some of us who have started it as a side hustle that view it more as like a fun hobby, or it's been ingrained in us that a real job is a place where you go and sit down at a computer in an office and you do work, or you're in sales and you're selling something, or you're repairing something with your hands. And it's I live in a very rural area, which is a very tough guy. I do stuff with my hands. I got dirt on my boots, sort of thing. And I really admire those folks. A lot of them are in my family, and they do a lot of hard work. And so there's a little bit of like, I sell patches on Etsy, for a living when other things are going down. And I think there is some just like internal embarrassment sometimes from people, like, when, especially not just for Etsy, but for like online jobs, or you're like, maybe I'm not doing a real job, quote unquote. You know, I'm just kind of doing a job. But I think the COVID times helped us significantly with that when we
Oh
all went.
yeah.
And so I was less leery about telling people that I worked online or that I had you know, a digital business or whatever around that time. But yeah, I think there's just some internalness of like, Etsy's not a real job for me because I'm not going to a business. I don't have a brick and mortar store. I don't have like this amount of income or whatever. It could be a mental block for you if you kind of let it handle if you handle it that way in your brain, which is why I have started making some mental jumps now of how I define myself in the work that I do.
Okay, this is actually really eye-opening, because I was wondering why you took pride in the manufacturer
Mhm.
label, why that kind of gave you that. You almost like carry yourself different when you say it.
Yeah.
So part of it is it's like the community that you're in. So I grew up Chicago suburbs. So with a lot of like my best friend's dad was the CEO of AT&T at the time. So yes, still Etsy would be perceived differently, but I'm in e-commerce. Like I think I'm in e-commerce and people are like, "Oh, wow, like, can you teach me how to, you know what I mean? Like, I get a lot of respect out of it, but I totally get now that I live in a small town where everyone's hands are dirty and they're wearing their work boots. Yeah, they could totally be like you in your little piddly Etsy shop or whatever. I mean, they wouldn't dare say it to me now, but so okay, I get that. But you know what occurred to me when you were talking too? I wonder if because again, I came from more urban, suburban. People didn't have. They were potentially in e-commerce.
Hmm.
I wonder if it's the association with Etsy is like for crafts and art. And so it's
Yes.
like almost the starving artist mentality. Like you can't possibly be making any real money because you're in an art. You're selling on an art site, which we all know it's so much more than that. But like, wow, I just hadn't really thought about it that way before.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that because I do have some. Sarah and I, my wife, have talked about it before. That it is fun, and I don't care to share my finances with everybody who come up to me or how successful things are. That's just not my jam. But it is funny to be like, you should really do this. Like you should really market it like this, from people in town or whatever. Or like, people ask me, well, can you make, you have a laser, can you make this? And I have to tell people no, because it's not my lane. But also, I think some people are just like being nice. Like, we're going to throw Preston a bone to make some more money. He needs some. Can you make us a door sign, Preston? And I'll be like, I would love to make you a door sign. I have no time to do that with my current workload. Like, they don't understand the amount of things that I'm putting out. I had somebody, because my embroidery business is more localized. I had somebody say like, well, you should be really advertising your embroidery stuff more. And what I want to tell them is, you don't see the books at the end of the month. I'm doing fine. Like, I'm hitting the goals that I want to hit. I don't need to do any more marketing than what I'm already doing. And so it is kind of like a fun little secret that I get to keep, uh, that things are really good for me right now. And I'm really happy with where I'm at. And I think what put that into perspective with my close friends that I talked to when I was working the two other jobs on top of this, or three, if you count some of my social media stuff that I was doing, when I started telling them, oh yeah, the Etsy shop, it actually made this month what my three other jobs make combined. And they would go, oh, okay, well, that makes more sense now. Like, and then they would follow up with like, you're selling hat patches and making a full-time income? I'm like, yeah, sure am. And so that's it. It helped. It helped making some of those transitions a little bit easier. I think I'm starting to ramble now, and so you have to give us another point to talk about. I'm just kind of like word
No,
vomiting.
you're not. You're not at all. Do you know what? This was such magic what happened here because it wasn't even what we were going to talk about. And yet I actually think it couldn't have been a more perfect lead in to how to think like an Etsy seller. We just overcame objections that I think are, and I think clicked into even for me a different place in my brain to have this conversation. You didn't ramble a bit. Stop it. It's also such a good thing that you have no ego and you live in that town. Okay, so we broke this down. We want to talk about how to think like a full-time Etsy seller, and we're gonna approach it from the mindset perspective first. Then we're gonna come in from the practical. So those of you who love some woo, you're gonna get it. For those of you who are like, just tell me what to do, you're gonna get that too because they go hand in hand. So First, we're going to talk about the mindset. How does a full-time seller think? And then we're going to talk about the practical. What does a full-time seller do? So, for how does a full-time seller think? The first thing that I think about is creating dedicated work time. So, it's not getting the leftovers. It's not if I have time to get to it. It's not if I feel like it. It's like, this is kind of funny, but it's like feeding your pet. It's a non-negotiable. You're going to do it every day.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Like dedicated work time? Was that something you had to kind of click into doing?
Yeah, definitely. The handmade shop requires that quite a bit more than what the
Right.
digital shop does, because the digital shop, you can spend a block of time, create some things, and then maybe not create again, for another week or something like that. In the handmade shop, if I sit down, if I don't do the things that are required of me, I don't make sales, that day, because I don't have the order. Like, I'm not churning out orders. It's not doing anything. And so it's a little less passive. And so being able to mindset that, but we can go both ways on this.
Mm-hmm.
You Whether it's an hour a week or if it's 8 to 5 every day, treating this like a job now. Like, okay, I work. I'm starting work at 8. I'm closing up shop at 5. And I have my little workspace back here. I go to work and work from my house, and then when the time is over, I mentally leave. And so, yeah, there's definitely a mindset to considering it a full-time gig now, however that looks for you. Like, if full-time for you is just a few hours a week right now versus 40 hours a week, then have that mindset, and I guarantee you'll start viewing it differently.
It's just, for me, it's about you schedule it. You put it on your schedule. You don't see if I have time. You don't see if I feel
Yeah.
like it, if the creative whatever hits. It's you schedule it, just like your personal trainer would say at the gym. You're not going to see if you feel like it or if there ends up being time. You're going to put it on your schedule. There's a part B caveat to this that I faced a lot in the handmade space. When you have listings that are doing well and you're busy with the manufacturing piece, like I was making the signs,
Mm-hmm.
I would sometimes get in the trap of I'd be so busy working in my business, producing the product, that I wouldn't make time. I learned this the hard way, to work on my business and make sure I was creating new listings. And what would happen is I'd all of a sudden, because every trend, every listing, now some of them last longer than others, but they go through a cycle, they go through a life cycle. A really strong listing, sometimes it'll sell the day you list it. Sometimes it'll take a few weeks to a few months to actually hit. And then it'll peak. You can ride it for a while. It's going to sell, 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 sell. And then it'll start to slow down. So I would reach a point where everything would slow down and I'd be like, well, darn it. Well, if I had intentionally scheduled time to work on my business and create listings earlier, I wouldn't have hit that slump because the next one would have been rising while this one was falling. So that's another trap I would fall into. I don't know. Have you ever had that happen? I guess the patches are a little more evergreen.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. One of my business values is ideate and iterate. And so, regardless of how good the thing is, I am going to come up with a new idea. I try to every day. That does not mean that I put a new listing up every day, but I want to have an idea of something and that goes in the notebook or that gets mocked up on Canva. And then the iterate portion of that is my patches. Like I've said before on the pod, they're basically all the same thing. A patch is a patch, but how do I ideate it or iterate it? Do I do different shapes? Right now, I've added custom threading, so I've added that as an upgrade now, where I can custom thread your stuff for you, where I wasn't doing that before. So it's that business mindset of where making space for those things to work on your business. I love that concept, and I do practice that regularly.
It's a big trap when you're with the handmade because you can get so busy with
Yeah.
working in it. What about, I think of this as like the mindset of a full-time seller, having reasonable expectations. So when I think of someone kind of green, just coming in, maybe hasn't ever done any entrepreneurship before, I see a lot of emotional decisions or emotional processing versus data-based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like knowing that it could take some time and knowing that problems are going to come up and just that that kind of calm and steady mindset. Sometimes it does just come with experience, but it also just comes with expectations. If who was I saying this to the other day? Oh, it's actually a private situation I can't talk about, but a friend of mine is about to go through a bit of a legal battle. And I was like, you need to go in with the expectation that this could happen. Because if you don't, it's going to hit you like a Mack truck. But if you
Mhm.
do go into it this way, if you face some issues, you'll have the capacity for it, because it's always a surprise, something you don't expect that hits you like a surprise always takes more out of you than when you're kind of braced for impact, right?
Yeah, that you just described my entire like existence and my mental existence. We've talked before that I'm a measured risk taker, and so I because of my Enneagram number and
What are
my
you?
I'm a 6. Pretty sure I'm a 6, but I can go through a fearful 6, and so I can go through a 7 bazillion different scenarios in my mind, and then I have the investigator wing, the researcher 5 wing, where I will study and analyze things into the ground. But I always have some sort of plan on top of how, if things go badly, I have a parachute, and so there's very rarely do I just jump off into doing something. So I've learned courage through business work, and I've learned how to be more of a risk taker. But everything that I do is very measured, and so I think the way that we're framing that now is with reasonable expectation of what to happen. I don't expect to make $10,000 this month because it is January. People have spent a lot of money already, and I could choose to be bummed out about where I am right now in my Etsy shop because it's January. But my expectation, my reality, my logic tells me last year was slow at this time. Traditionally, across the entire US economy and world economy, January is slow because the Christmas season just came through. It will pick up, it will be okay. So what are we doing now? What are we going to do in this time? And then you set those expectations. Okay, well, I'm investing in digital designs right now. I'm not abandoning my patch shop. I'm still on track this month to do really well and to meet my goal for January. But it gives me some time to do some cleaning, some of that ideation and that iteration that I wanted to do that I don't necessarily have time otherwise. And it also helps that I have a huge order of embroidery stuff that I have to get done. And so it's nice to not have the Etsy shop just completely blowing up right now because I got other stuff to do. And so I'm thinking about marketing. I'm thinking about graduation right now because I know locally graduate gifts are going to be big for me embroidery wise. So I'm thinking about May and or April and seeing, okay, what are some things that how can I kind of pivot myself and get ready for graduation season? So yeah, just kind of thinking ahead, managing your expectations, setting reasonable goals. Those are all part of this.
Yeah, I think a lot of times. So, like, someone just the other day, I think it was maybe in the Facebook group, they said they were like, "I'm revisiting all of my listings and trying to make some changes because my Q4 was so busy and now there's nothing, and so I know something's wrong." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! No, no! Don't you dare touch a single listing that's been working. Nothing is
Right.
wrong. It's January." It's just January. Everything, the whole world slows down. Now, I will say there's two ways to think about it. Number one, enjoy the break because a lot of us worked our butts off Q4. Number two, use the time to clean, to create, to do all the things that you didn't get to work on because you were busy last Q4. Number three, go into for these times of year, go into home decor because January was always crazy for me in the sign shop. After Q4, when it was slow was the summer. So it's like you can also pad your shop with things that effectively take over. The holiday gifting stuff ends and then the home decor stuff picks up. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Reasonable expectations. Number three. We already really talked about this. It was the whole like takes their business seriously,
Mhm.
perceives the value in what they offer and have the potential to earn, not my little hobby or my additional income stream. So I like to cast this vision. Part two of this is like, you guys, it's about seeing the value in what an extra $2,000 to $5,000 a month or even in a few months can do. So for a lot of households, that's paying off some debt. That's paying for a vacation. That's serving as an emergency fund that you otherwise didn't have. And there's a huge value in that, even though we don't have the flashy thing of being able to say, I made $200,000 this year.
Mm.
And I think that we need to think about it in the perspective of what does it do for, that's why I love using the framework of like my Etsy shop this month paid for, a vacation. my Etsy shop paid off this debt. My Etsy shop covered my mortgage payment. Because to people, that's just as life-changing and profound to think about as I made the multiple six-figure income. Like, no, most Americans having their mortgage covered is life-changing.
Success comes in a bunch of different packages, I feel like. And it's all about what you want and what you need. I've never set really a financial goal for my business, like until this last year when I was starting to go full time because I needed to, like I needed to say like, okay, I needed to make as much or more than my other jobs were. Prior to that, it was what like my digital shop was giving me opportunity to buy fun things. Like it was my fun money fund. When the sweary sign shop that did okay, I was making $100 a month or whatever. That's fun money for me. It was just fun extra money to have. And for some people that may be it. And if that's your goal, it's great. Right now my goal is like, I would love to buy an RV again. I would love to be able to camp on the weekends. I would love to have a little bit more financial freedom to take some vacations. And from the video, you can see the floofy children we have in the back. They're a handful. They don't travel well unless we're going to an Airbnb. They don't like stay. I mean, and I can't take my dogs to everybody's house. I can't stay at my sister-in-law's house every time with 3 dogs. And so, we want a little bit more freedom. And so we're kind of setting up a goal now. We're like, okay, so can we earn enough income to buy a camper again? Can we, or maybe it goes towards an Airbnb a month. So, and then build on that, that's what my stuff went to was fun money. Okay. Now we're generating income. Okay. Now I need to make this much money. It kind of took the pressure off, to start off with, oh, I really want to make some money to buy some fun extra things that I want to buy. You want to buy shoes or equipment, or for me, it was like buying some tools that I wanted. It eventually bought me the first laser that I had.
I
You
didn't
start
remember
with,
that. That's cool.
yeah, start with that, and then go do other goals. Set higher financial goals for yourself as you kind of transition your mind into a full-time position.
You just teed up the next one, Pete. It's a full-time seller expects to invest in tools, education, and advertising. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, you actually took your earnings and reinvested it back into the shop to be able to level up. We did that left and right. I think a lot of times, and I know, times are hard financially. And so getting started for people and having money for startup costs can be really challenging. But I think it's important to have the mindset of when I make the money, like, yeah, I want to help take some burden off my family. But there's also this piece of I'm thinking of the long game and I need to use some of this to invest in the tools, education, and advertising. Was that a shift for you, or were you always just intuitively like, all right, I'm going to pour this back in?
Yeah. I mean, let's go back to the very beginning, the origin story of this. There was a point where where I said, I don't really understand Etsy. I need some help with it. And that's when I
Mm.
called you and did an hour-long coaching session. And I don't remember what it was back then, $95, $90. Or you probably
It
give me
was like
some sort of,
$97 back in 20. I mean, we don't even do them now. Actually, I'm opening them up for Becca and Caroline, and I know you're going to be coming to help us soon too when we get real busy.
just
In all
doing
your
that.
spare time. But yeah, it wasn't too much back then. But now that could be a course, or it could be coming
Yeah.
into trend spotting and get a shop audit on the call. You can do that for $17. That's crazy. How much you can get for $17.
Well, and that $97 phone call turned into like, a couple $1,000s worth of income eventually, like because you sent me some stuff, then we tried it and it hit. That's not a guarantee for everybody who has a coaching call or a course that they take. I talk about it all the time in the group. Sometimes you just get a little bit lucky with you have the skills and the knowledge. You do as best you can and go from there. Now, where things get really scary is when you start investing in bigger equipment
Yep.
for handmade sellers and stuff like that. Like one of the things that I've learned is it's better almost to spend a little bit more money to buy the tool that you need than spending less money and getting a tool that might be what you need. I would much rather have the thing that I know what it's going to do and know that it's going to do it well, because it's kind of like buying an old used car. We used to drive old beater cars, and you kind of have to grow into this. We just bought the first new car we've ever bought like 3 years ago. But even then it still has its problems. But, I bought some machines that are a little bit bigger than what I really needed at the time because I knew I was going to grow into them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, well, I could buy this laser, but it doesn't have this specific 2 or 3 features that I really feel like I need to be successful and that are going to help me, down the line with time, effort, material. And so I invested in a little bit bigger machine. It's a little bit more. When I tell people, oh, I have this machine and I do patches on it, it's a little bit overkill for doing patches, but it does exactly what I need it to do, and it does it right nearly every time. That led me to buying another machine that I use that's helps me do fast. I do some really fast stuff with it, and all those machines have paid themselves off over time. Like because of the work that I've done, because of the foresight that I had that I'm going to need this down the road, a couple months down the road. I had some really good months that paid for those machines multiple times over. But again, I made that decision knowing good and well what I was getting into. I had already tested the waters on my product. I didn't just like shove off and say, oh, I'm going to go buy a $15,000 laser right now and start making patches. I started with a $200 laser that I found on Facebook Marketplace and grew from there, selling, making stuff. And that, I bought a $1,500 CNC machine that I ended up selling and losing money on, honestly, because it wasn't what I needed. It wasn't what I really wanted to do. And so if I had a little bit more foresight, I probably would have been able to invest that money a little bit earlier in machines that I need. So I'm hoping that the same thing happens for embroidery for me right now, because that's what I did this last summer, invested in an embroidery business, and it's paying itself off right now. I've not broken even by any means on it, but it's added income to my life and value because of the research that I did to lead up to this point.
You guys know I am constantly testing strategies and frameworks on Etsy so I can tell you what's actually working and what's just noise. And one thing I have noticed over the years is this. Most Etsy sellers aren't stuck because they're lazy or they're not doing anything. They're stuck because they're second guessing everything, what to work on, what matters right now, whether they're even on the right path. I hear this all the time. And that feels exhausting. So after years of teaching Etsy sellers through courses and workshops, the trend spotting membership, coaching, and this podcast, I built something that brings everything together in one place. It's called Scaling Society. Scaling Society is my all-inclusive Etsy membership for sellers who want clarity and a clear plan without hopping between programs or wondering what to focus on next. Inside, you get my Etsy seller roadmap so you know exactly what to work on and when, with direction on what resources will help you master it. You also get every single one of my courses and my workshops. You get access to trend spotting and the weekly trend reports, my template drop, which means a weekly template that you can resell in your own shop, SEO training, a bunch of done-for-you resources like prompts, SEO, and branding templates. You get a coaching group with real support, and that's where the magic happens. You also get access to 2 live coaching calls with me every single month. You'll also get automatic access to all of the new trainings and resources I have planned for this year, including special guests. It's designed to meet you right where you're at, whether you're brand new or you're ready to scale, and help you build intentionally instead of guessing your way forward. And honestly, the biggest feedback I hear from members isn't just about sales, it's relief. They finally know what to focus on. So if Etsy feels harder than it should, if you're putting in effort but you want more clarity and direction, or if you're ready to treat your shop like a real business and have actual support behind you from people who know what they're doing, you can learn more about Scaling Society at the link in the show notes. There's monthly and annual options, and you can cancel anytime, so just pick what's right for you. I'd love to support you inside. That first episode I think that we did, all of our previous episodes are going to be linked in the show notes, but we had a really good conversation because I was choosing a machine at that time for our laser engraving for Robbie. And you were talking us through how to make those decisions on what to invest in. So people who are listening who are like wanting to be handmade, know they're going to have some investments up front. I thought those were really good conversations to go back to listen to. For the sake of time, I'm going to rattle off the last couple of things about how a full-time Etsy seller should think or would think. And then we can
Yeah.
kind of move in for a few minutes. I'd love to chat about the practical, about what they would do. It's basically the two go hand in hand, right? Here's how I think and here's what I do about it. And I don't want to miss out on that for the people who are like, I mean, actually, I feel like this isn't super woo. Like, yes, it's like how you think, but we're not like, look up at the clouds and write down your dreams. We're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the other ones I had were to network at every chance you get, and that's kind of the being proud of what you do. You're not over there like, oh, I don't want to talk about my little Etsy shop. It's literally like, no, you meet someone new. They're like, what do you do? All right, so I'm thinking about Becca. Becca would be
Mm.
like, well, she's a speech therapist. She helps with kids with speech therapy, and she runs a digital product Etsy shop, because then people, you'll have people go like, oh, and maybe there's something that like, oh, they want to go buy a digital invitation for their kid's next birthday. You're creating more business for yourself by letting it come up naturally in conversation. I mean, for me, everywhere I go, if anyone asks me, I'm like, oh, I'm an Etsy podcaster. They're like, really? And we can get into, oh yeah, I help people either create a side hustle or replace their full-time income with either handmade products or print on demand, or it opens up conversations. You wouldn't believe how many, like my next door neighbor here at the farm started listening to the podcast, opened up a t-shirt shop. She now sells tons of shirts locally. Preston, she buys patches from you.
Yeah.
It is crazy how so now it's created business for both of us, right? She'd been in trend spotting. And I mean, this has happened over and over and over again. So don't be shy to network every chance you get. Next was to constantly assess your strengths and weaknesses and delegate or learn accordingly. So I think it's a small time thing to do, to never go back and evaluate, all right. And this is what, like Scaling Society, this is our Etsy success roadmap that's like proprietary in there. And it really helps you figure out where you're at, what you need to do next, because clarity and not second guessing are two of the most important things for an Etsy seller. Is not to sit there in analysis paralysis, but to know what to do next. You've got to be able to
Yeah.
assess. And here's the other thing. I think you've got to be able to delegate. So there comes a point in every single Etsy seller's life that you've got to bring in help, and you've got to know when to do that. Or if there's something like, for example, I'm never going to be a good accountant. I hired an accountant. I'm not going to be good at that ever. And you know what? It takes up too much brain space for me to try. And I grew up in a household, I don't know about you, where it was like, when you have a weakness, and I like this, but there's a point when you have a weakness, you go after it and you plow through it. And this is, I think, very like maybe baby boomer, Gen X. And as a kid, that's good because you want to learn how to strengthen your intellectual muscles. But when you're a business owner, it can slow your growth down if you stay in that mindset too much. Instead, you need to figure out, what are you good at, what energizes you, what do you need to do, and you need to delegate the rest. I spent too much time on that, but
Yeah.
wow, it hit a childhood wound. Also, full-time seller thinks, I can't just stay in my comfort zone. My comfort zone limits me, it keeps me small. So stretching myself is how I create exponential results. It's really funny. Like a big one I'll see is even coming on this podcast. I'll get someone who clears 100 sales, which is like the first 100 sales and no intellectual property violations in your shop are like the two main criteria for coming on the podcast. And people, there's a lot of introverts that are Etsy sellers, and they're just like, I could never do that. And I'm like, well, you need to and maybe this isn't part of your business growth. I get it. But finding ways to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, doing things, even if maybe it's like, all right, well, I only get up one listing a week. Well, maybe you need to push yourself to get up two. And I'm talking about a handmade seller. Print on demand and digital need to be doing more than that. Or maybe it's I don't like trying a different kind of design than what I do all the time. Well, you need to get out of your comfort zone, because at some point what you're doing is going to lose steam. All right, that's enough of that. Let's talk about the practical. What does a full-time seller do? Number one I got is consistent effort. So they prioritize and schedule time to work. I'd love for you to talk about consistency, P, because you stuck with this for so long before it really blew up for you.
Yeah. It's kind of what we said before, like the mindset of consistency, then the actual physical doing of consistency go hand in hand. You can think yourself like, oh, I'm thinking about my business a lot. Now we got to start doing about our business. And it is time. And you talk about it all the time, especially with digital design. It's all about reps and getting those designs in, getting the bad designs done. From a creative standpoint, you have to create the bad designs. You got to do them. Like the bad designs are what lead to better designs. And so, yeah, consistency of making and putting up listings and just committing to some of the stuff's going to suck, and that's okay because I'm going to get better. Yep. And I want
Yep.
to focus my on learning better skills, and by learning better skills by doing. So anyway, yeah, that's what I would say about that to add on.
This is an interesting thing that I think, like, I don't know, when I was first introduced to it, I was like, huh. And I'm gonna recycle what I said earlier. So you don't I mean, I'm sure there are certain people in like mental health situations where this may not be true, but you don't always feel like cooking dinner for your kids or feeding your dog, but you make yourself do it. It's a
Mm.
non-negotiable. Some of us struggle with, we make goals for ourselves for going to the gym, working out or whatever, but no one's life is depending on it, so we don't necessarily make ourselves do it. So I just want you to know that there is some area of your life where you're capable of disciplining yourself to do something. The question is, what do you in your head believe is the consequence if you don't? And so
Mm.
you can make yourself when someone or something's well-being is at stake, or if it's like a moral thing for you. But what about, and like this is where it comes to like keeping promises to yourself. I think one of the
Mm.
best things we can learn as we develop as humans and improve our mental health is keeping promises to ourselves, whether it's about our time, whether it's about our relationships, whether it's about our business. So I want to throw that in there because I know that always used to get my wheels turning. The next one
Well,
is a full teller. I know you agree. P, you've had enough conversations. Or um, full-time seller creates what the market wants. They follow demand over what they feel like making. So they're following the numbers and the data.
I said something the other day in our school group. There was a conversation that was being had about how do I know what to make, or whatever. And somebody had said, you know, you need to love what you make, or you won't want to make it. Something along the lines of that. And I came out and I said I partially agree with that statement. For me, the mental gymnastics that I'm doing, I suppose, for it are: do I love the process of making? And I think a lot of this has to do with handmade sellers creating craft. It could be, I mean, even digital. Like, do you enjoy the process of making the thing that you make? You don't have to love every design. I think I've talked about this before, maybe in the podcast that we did with Becca, where there's a lot of patches that I would not wear on my own head. I make a lot of designs that I don't necessarily love, but it's what my customer wants, or what people want or need. But I love the process of the making, like the doing, the designing, all that. If I didn't love those things, then I probably am in the wrong business. Like I'm doing something wrong. And so I'm not telling you that you got to just slog through your job like, oh, I hate making digital designs, but that's what Lizzie told me to do. Well, if you don't love making digital designs, don't do digital designs. It's okay, but love the process. You don't have to love each and every product. And so that was a big jump for me, because I was making a lot of stuff that I thought was funny, or that I loved, or that. And you start realizing, like, I'm not every man. Like, I'm not the everyman in this situation. I got to design what is marketable, what's trendable, and what people are actually going to buy. And then I just invest in the process of doing those things. And that's been a huge generation of income for me, to be able to kind of shift my mindset that way and start doing more of those products, than creating stuff that I like. I know there's like a lot of movie actors that say, like, I'll do the Marvel movie for the paycheck, and then I'll do one for me. They'll go do some sort of
Oh.
film, like some sort of like really obscure indie film that nobody's ever seen. And so I kind of have that mentality too. Like, I'm going to do one for the the world, one for Preston. And so I make something fun for me every once in a while, just to
I'm
keep
just
it fun.
like, listen, you're not like out there. I mean, I don't. Some people love, like, I love our people who come clean our house. So I don't want to like insult anyone, but I'm saying there's a lot worse or like less desirable work you could be doing that you would take less pleasure in than creating something creative. I promise you're gonna love the cha-chings. I don't want anyone to hate what they're making for sure. I ended up
Yeah,
hating the signs because it was so grueling.
yeah,
But boy, did I love the cha-chings. So it's like, there's like a balance. Next one I'm going to go through quick because we talked about it a lot before, and it was about just full-time seller intentionally creates reasonable goals based on data, and they play the long game. So they're being reasonable about what they can accomplish in 6 months versus 5 years. We talk about this a lot. People underestimate what they can do in 5 years. they overestimate what they can do in 6 months. So there's just this balanced thing about setting reasonable goals. The
Yes.
next one is paying for tools that make them more efficient, investing in things that create a better product. They'll take the hit on profit short term to invest in the long-term results and efficiencies. They invest in coaching that can help them level up and community that can sharpen them and encourage them. Golly, I make more money now than I've ever made my whole life. And I spend more on coaching now than I've ever spent in my entire life. So think about that. You don't arrive and then decide I don't need to invest in I invest more in tools now too. Tools or coaching. I don't need to do that once I get good. No, a full-time seller does it even more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just like being smart about your budget and knowing what you can afford, what you can't afford. Another interesting conversation that we were having in school this week was, what tool do you use for your SEO? You know, there's so many out there.
Yeah.
Some are better than others. Some are about the same. And so I don't use any of those tools. I use free versions of everything that I did. And this week I was like, well, because they mentioned this, I'm going to invest in it for myself, because I am kind of needing to dig a little bit more for my own business. I'm going to invest in one of the ones that we mentioned in the school group. It's a lower ticket than the most of them. And so I was like, I'll try it for $9. I'll try it.
Nice.
It's one of those deals where you are going to have to make some investments. And it's like I said, like, yeah, I didn't buy the top of the line laser engraver, but I also didn't buy the cheapest one I could find. I bought a used one. I bought a used laser.
Yep.
My big one that's in there making me money right now, it's used and refurbished. So I'm cheap. If you learn anything, like, I'm cheap and I believe in affordability. And so I'm shopping at Goodwill. I'm buying stuff off the discount rack at Walmart. Anything that's on sale, it's coming home with me. So I'm trying to find that balance in my business as well. But like, don't buy the cheapest thing. Don't get the cheapest coaching. Don't get the cheapest thing, tool XYZ. Buy good stuff. Invest in those good things. And I think that's the difference, is like, there's a difference between like purchasing something and investing in something. In my full-time mind now, I'm making investments in my business, not just purchases.
I want you guys to be thinking about just constantly evaluate. I'm kind of lumping everything together now because I want to give Pete a chance, because I think he's got extra thoughts too. I want you to be, as a full-time seller, in a practical sense, I want you to sit down quarterly and I want you to evaluate. So when you're new, you fly by the seat of your pants. When you're not taking it seriously, you just go with the wind. There's some of that's just intuitive that you're always going to do. But a serious business owner is going to be evaluating how it's going, sitting down at the end of the quarter. What worked? What didn't work? How do I need to plan ahead? Where do I need to learn and grow? What's the next step for me to scale? What person, tool, or resource do I need to level up? Is there something I can do more efficiently? Is it time to add Etsy ads? Is there a way AI could be streamlining this for me? Is it time to make sure I'm secured with an LLC? What's the next pivot? Because what I'm doing now won't always work. Maybe it's working great. Maybe I just need to iterate on it for now. Or do I need to be testing the next products? Always thinking about this.
Yeah.
And then also always thinking about, where am I too comfortable? Where am I hesitating to change or grow, even though I can feel the tension building there? Because the learning process and adopting takes time and effort and capacity. Well, what's something I can do to stretch right now that I'm otherwise kind of resisting? And we really have to press into those things. That's kind of like a summary of everything else. I guess I did throw in, and this is good because this is, again, touching on that first thing we talked about, which is kind of this mindset of like almost shame about being an Etsy seller. It still doesn't totally process to me. But when you are like in the wild, when you're in your life, this is a way to get outside of your comfort zone. I want you to listen for openings to mention your work, and not in like an icky way where people are like, oh, like, here comes, I don't want to say name because then people think people get their feelings hurt. Here comes so-and-so. You know what I mean? Like I used to say that, and like I'm like the sweetheart. I'm the one everyone thinks is really nice, and I am. And so I stopped doing that. I learned my lesson. So I'm like, oh, here comes so-and-so, and they're going to be peddling whatever. No. I just mean like when it feels natural. But there is this point of when you own a business, you ask for the sale, not cringy to your friends, but like someone's saying, like, let's say, okay, this used to happen to me all the time. Let's say I'd be at a birthday party and my friend would have one of my signs on their wall and someone else would ask about it. I'd be like, oh, Lizzie made that. And the person would be like, oh, really? I'd be like, yeah, I'd love to make one for you too. It's just that extra line of, I'm not being cringy. I'm just saying, expressing interest. It's asking for the sale. You want to at least leave breadcrumbs. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, like ask her if you ever want a link to my shop. I'd be glad to make you one. So it's just taking pride in your work, because let me tell you what,
Mm.
if you, and I don't know, maybe this is too close. I was going to say, like, I don't know if you've ever had a friend who like makes baked goods, everyone loves them. They're not hesitating to be like, yeah, sure, I'll make you a loaf of sourdough. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not cringing, but no one's cringing about it. So just think about a way to do it. I overtalked on that one, but that's fine. What, P, you had and maybe we addressed them, but what kind of closing remarks or other things did you want to talk about? You got to get throughout your Dwight Schrute
Oh
book for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And it goes back to our investment and just like general decision making for your business. There's a great Dwight Schrute quote on The Office where he says, one of the best things that I've learned is don't be an idiot. And so in my life, I ask, would an idiot do that? And if I answer yes, I don't do that thing. And so I think that's kind of what we have to do with being a full-time Etsy seller is like, would a full-time business do this? If the answer is no, I don't do that thing. As a people pleaser, it's really hard to tell people that you're not going to do a thing,
Right.
or tell yourself that that's not a path I'm heading down. So I think like the one thing that I would add to everything that we've said is there is nothing wrong, and especially with Etsy, I think it's important to do this. If you find your lane, double down on that lane and
Yes.
invest in it, and try not to veer too far off of it. There, we talk about making products and iterations and stuff like that. Like, take that into account, but don't do things that you're not comfortable with doing. And here's what I mean by that. Just this week, I have a customer who I make hats for locally. I made some shirts for him. I have a single press DTF shirt press in my house. And I've committed to doing small runs of shirts. I did 10 shirts for him. And at the end of that project, I went to my wife and I said, no more shirts. This is it. No more shirts. And I don't do a ton of shirts. Like, I don't press my own shirts a lot. But even 10, it didn't take a long time, but it took away my focus because I had to be there with it. I had to actually, like, the process took longer than I wanted to. And I said, I have wasted like a whole afternoon babysitting these shirts, doing like 10 or 20 shirts. Like, if I had somebody else doing those for them that was focused on doing those, that's fine. Maybe that comes with working with robots all day. Like, I have embroidery machines and lasers now that work by themselves. And so I do other things while they're working by themselves. So,
I'm like, sounds like time to delegate that task,
yeah,
Preston.
well, and if I had enough business doing it, I would. But
Yep.
what I'm going to say is, and the same thing happened when I made a tumbler for a friend
Oh,
for Christmas. She asked me if I could do a tumbler with a name on it. Well, it was a Stanley tumbler. I don't do tumblers, so she brought me this really nice 40-ounce Stanley tumbler. I messed it up, and
oh,
so I got to go buy another $40 Stanley tumbler, and I was only going to make about $10 on the deal anyway. And so now I'm out. Now I'm out $30, and so I should have just said no. There's other people in town that can do that. So learning to say no and learning where to direct your energies is so important as you move forward. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you have to do it or that you should do it. And so now I'm feeling more and more comfortable saying I am in the hat lane. I make hat patches. I don't make a lot of other things right now. Maybe down the road I will. I'm toying with some different ideas to do stuff on the laser. I don't do a lot outside of hats on my embroidery machines. I do some shirts and stuff like that. That's fine. But I got to know where my limitations are, where my guardrails are, because I've learned anytime I get out of those, even if I know how to do the thing, I'm either going to waste time or I'm going to waste money.
yep.
Honestly, right now I can't afford to do either. And so, focus your energy and find those things that you're really good at and double down on those things.
This is this is exactly what we're talking about in Scaling Society, left and right. And guys, when he keeps saying chats, what we're talking about in the school group, what we're talking about, he's talking about Scaling Society, which is the program I built. as a roadmap for Etsy sellers. So if you're looking for focus, you want to really grow this year, you want to get in there with us. It's where you get, it's like my all inclusive. It's where you get access to everything that I do, all of my courses, all of my workshops, all of my done for you stuff. You get access to the Etsy success roadmap. You get access to the coaching group. You get trend spotting. You get everything. So it's just like one monthly fee. You get everything. And that's where we're really helping people scale. So what I want to build on what P was just saying in the beginning, because people get, this is a mindset thing that happens for people. In the beginning, test a lot of stuff. Use the capacity you have from it being something new and exciting. You're not being dragged away by tons and tons of orders you're filling. Use that expansive space to figure out what works. So don't be shy about trying a bunch of different products in your shop. No, you don't need a different shop for every product. Try a bunch of things that appeal to you. What's going to happen is, as you get up several listings and you get better and better at designing, you go through that messy middle, a couple of things are going to emerge as your thing. It's going to sell well. You're going to do it intuitively. You're going to feel like you get it. People buy it regularly. You're going to see what works for you. This happens for every single student. It took P a few years to go a couple different product types to get there. Mm-hmm. But then once you figure it out, once that thing emerges, the secret to scaling is to then double down on that thing. Iterate it, figure out how to do more of it, figure out how to do it better. Now, yes, with time, there's going to come a point here where Preston, and he's going to start playing with it soon, is going to start looking at other things that fit his mold, that he wants to be his next thing to add on. Right now, he's finding out shirts are not it. He's finding out other things maybe tumblers are not it. By the way, tumblers make a ton of money. They're just a pain. You really want to get good at that one thing, but then you can make a ton of money in tumblers. It's just a pain. But it's not my thing. It's not P's thing. And that's fine. But so P's going to then go into a testing phase again soon, kind of figure out what that next thing is. But it's that he's going to figure it's that thing that comes easy. It's that thing. It's like, this works. I get it. I can rinse and repeat it. I can iterate it. And then ideally, if you guys haven't checked out my free workshop yet, how to blow up your Etsy shop, you're going to be able to niche blast it. You always want to pick a product you can niche blast. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's totally free. It's a training I came out with that all my colleagues they want to kill me because they can't believe I gave this away for free. Let me make a note to how to blow up. You can go ahead and grab that free training. But he's going to be looking for the next thing he can niche blast. I just wanted you to hear in the beginning, play, test, do all those things, figure out what's going to emerge, and then double down, lock in on it. Do you think I characterized that? I said a lot fast. Do you think that made sense to you?
No, yeah, nothing to add to that. That's great.
All right. So if you guys are moving towards, wanting to scale that Etsy shop, move into full-time seller, we want to lock arms with you. We're giving you all the resources. We're giving you the roadmap. We're giving you the coaching, just that intensive personal touch inside Scaling Society. So join us if that sounds like a fit for you. But otherwise, I just think this is such a helpful conversation for everyone. Pete, thanks for doing it with me. Thanks for suggesting it.
Yeah, like I said, it's always a huge pleasure to come on. I will come on as many days as you need me to. I learn something every time I come on, and I'm inspired to do better and more. And so here's to a year of growth for us both.
Oh, buckle up, buddy. So guys, if I know y'all love when P comes on, send me all the DMs, send him the DMs. Let us know how you liked the episode. Let us know what other topics you'd like for me to cover with Preston, because I'd love for him to be a regular guest this year. And we just want to know what you want to hear about. So thanks for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute joy. We are just rooting for you harder than your mom. Love you guys to pieces. And until next week, go make something awesome. Thanks, guys. And that's a wrap on this episode of How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're looking for more resources, head on over to howtosellyourstuff.com, where you'll find podcast show notes, all the links from today's episode, the blog, courses, coaching, and more. If this episode was helpful to you, awesome. The greatest compliment I can receive from you is a rate, review, and subscribe on this podcast. Not only will it allow us to connect again on a future episode, it lets me know I'm providing you with value and helps other people find this content more easily. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your support. Have a great day and see you next time.